Hari Hari. As you may know, having read my bio perhaps, I grew up in Gurukulas from the age of 8 years old until I graduated, and then went into training to become a Gurukul teacher. And now I actually have my own Gurukula, both online and in my temple in Northborough, Massachusetts. So Gurukula is very important to this conversation, which is having and raising spiritually awakened children. Let's first speak to or address the pedagogical nature of Gurukula. Gurukula literally means, Guru is the spiritual master, Kula means the house of, or the place of. So the Gurukula was the place of the Guru. In the modern day and age, it has been translated or misunderstood, really misrepresented to mean a boarding school, a spiritual boarding school. And I don't want to go off into how mistaken that understanding is and how it's led to unfortunate situations. But essentially, the Gurukula means the student learns from the Guru. Pedagogically, what the Gurukula provides, the teachings of the spiritual master, the Guru, means the student learns 4 different areas, or is trained in 4 different areas. Dharma, which is moral, ethical living. Artha, which means how to make a living. Literally, Artha is where you would have the academic, becoming a lawyer, a doctor, so on and so forth. That would be Artha. And then Kama, which means how to live a happy life, literally how to live a happy life in this material world without abusing the senses and the body, but to live a happy, satisfying life in this material world. And then finally, the 4th level of pedagogical instruction is moksha, or liberation. And not liberation after death, because, well, that's there obviously for sure, but we know moksha has 2 parts. There's moksha, or freedom, liberation in this life, jiva and mukti, and then there's liberation after death. So in Gurukula, the student is also trained in moksha in this life, achieving freedom in this life, which means having complete mastery and freedom from the Arishad Vargas, Kam, Krodh, Lobha, Moha, Mada, Matsarya. This lust, anger, greed, arrogance, delusion, and envy. These 6 enemies of the human being. Being able to conquer, be free, and above that is considered moksha in this life. Attaining freedom while living. So these are the 4 pedagogical areas that are given in training to the student in Gurukula. Now on the first level, which is Dharma, we're going to expand that just a little bit because Dharma is a huge topic. But essentially, the first level, or the first of these 4 pedagogical areas of training, Dharma means training in Tapa, Shaucha, Daya, and Satya. Tapa means self-mastery. The student learns how to master. They're not driven and controlled by their senses. They have mastery over their eating habits. They have mastery over what they watch, over what they listen to, over what they say, over what they speak, over what they eat. They have mastery over their body and their mind. They are not controlled by their sensual demands. That's tapa. Students learn. Socha is the second of these dharma principles. Socha means cleanliness, how to keep themselves physically clean, how to keep their environment clean, in the future, their cars, their houses, their community, literally clean, but also how to keep their motivations clean, pure, because we're all driven by various types of motivations throughout life. So the Gurukul student is taught how to keep their motivations pure. And what this means is their motivations for doing whatever they do in life, the ultimate motivation must be moksha, both for themselves, their family, their subordinates, their employees if they go on to be leaders in society. Their motivation always has to be what facilitates moksha for everyone involved. That is pure motivation, or purity on the level of motivation, internal purity. So tapa, self-mastery, shaucham, purity, cleanliness, externally, their surroundings, internally, their motivations. Daya is the third in dharma. Daya means compassion, empathy, compassion both for themselves and for others. Not to be overly critical of themselves. We talked about in the previous video of negative self-talk, not having basic self-appreciation for one's being. So compassion both for oneself and for others. In fact, you cannot have compassion for others if you have no compassion for yourself. But let's not get into the psychology of that. And then the third of these four aspects of dharma is satyam, truthfulness. Students are taught to revere truth, to seek out truth, to emphasize truth, to give truth a prominent place in everything that they do. Now, of course, there are absolute truths, factual truths, we can get into that, but essentially, seeking out and always putting truth first, and then going from there. So these principles are what are inculcated into the student. And this is how we can begin to raise spiritually awakened children. It happens in the Gurukula. Now, there are very few Gurukulas in the world. Something has to be done because of this lack of availability of Gurukulas that teach and instruct in this manner. So what has to be done is we have to bring back what has been lost. A very, very important aspect of society that has been lost. And that is the Kula Guru. Basically, you take Gurukula and you switch the words around, right? Gurukula is the house of the spiritual master. Kula Guru is when a family has their guru, the guru of the family. A very, very important position the Kula Guru plays in family and in society. Essential role. And this, in my opinion, must be brought back. At least for families and for persons who want to live a spiritually awakened existence, a spiritually awakened life. They want to create a spiritually awakened family for themselves and for their future generations. They must bring back within their family and understand what it means to have a Kula Guru. Absolutely essential. Let's talk about having spiritually awakened children. This means, before we can even get to raising them, there has to be specific intention of having spiritually awakened children. Well, having children, let's even start there. Because we know in society, oftentimes, children are not intentionally begotten. So the first, most important step, critical step, essential step, is that both persons, mom and dad, intentionally want to have a child when they have that child. In Vedic culture, this is called Garbhadhana Sanskar. That's family planning in Sanskrit, essentially. So it's not that one person or the other wants to have a child and one doesn't, and they bring a child into the world. We're then already starting from a disadvantage in terms of raising a spiritually awakened child in such a situation. Or when the marriage is falling apart and one or the other believes that if they have a child, that'll fix the marriage. The most unfortunate idea one could possibly have, to think a child is going to repair a failing relationship, a failing marriage. It is 9 times out of 10 just the opposite. Even if the two remain together for the sake of the incoming child, the marriage is now toxic, poisoned on a very, very essential level. So the very, very first and most important issue in raising spiritually awakened children is that both parents must intentionally plan to have a spiritually awakened child at the time they're planning to have that child. One may be in school, one may be, living further away at work, and it's not the right time. At the right time, right place, plan to have a spiritually awakened child. Absolutely essential. It just eliminates any little future possibilities where seeds of toxicity, seeds of poison have been part of this having a child in the first place. Now let's go on to the aspect of the second part of this discussion of raising a spiritually awakened child. And this is absolutely essential. A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, the founder of the Hare Krishna movement, you may know, he established Gurukulas, many of which I myself went to. And when he was talking about the importance of raising spiritually awakened children, he called them Vaikuntha children. He says, these are Vaikuntha children. Very, very special children. And I want to read your quote that he said about the importance of having and raising spiritually awakened children. So A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami said this: in Vedic civilization, the children went to Gurukula, the school of the spiritual master, and learned self-control, cleanliness, truthfulness, and many other saintly qualities. The best of them were later fit to rule the country. The second part of that is very, very interesting. He says they learned self-control, cleanliness, truthfulness, and many other saintly qualities. The best of them were later fit to rule the country. He did not say they were astrophysicists and were therefore thus qualified to lead the country. It is the saintly qualities that qualifies an individual for leadership, for being responsible for the lives and the livelihood of others. So this is the importance of having and raising spiritually awakened children. They are going to go on to become the leaders in medicine, the leaders in politics, the leaders of nations. And if they do not have self-control, if they do not put truth above all else, if they are not have control of their senses, if they're unable to operate from a place of compassion, how are they going to rule? How are they going to lead? What is going to be the result of the businesses that they open? What happens when they become multi-billionaires and they have inordinate influence worldwide, but they have not self-control? They have not compassion. They have not pure motivations within themselves. What's going to happen? We see. The world will burn. Now, I don't want to sound all gloom and doom. Quite the contrary. I think there's very, very much a lot of hope. This up-and-coming generation gives me an incredible amount of hope. I have a gurukul, I work with children. We'll be having a debate next week on homelessness with a group of teenagers. Half of them are homelessness can be solved and eradicated. The other half, no, it cannot, but we should do this. We're going to have a debate. They're all going to go at it. I'm very hopeful for the future. But let's get back to the discussion at hand. So we've talked about having children and the importance that it must be intentional on the part of both parents and indeed the greater family, grandparents on both sides. It must be intentional, not a oopsie-daisy, not let's have a child, or I want to have a child, spring a child on the other, or convince the other to have a child because the marriage is failing, the relationship is falling apart, and a child will bring us back together. A very unfortunate idea. Now let's talk about raising spiritually awakened children. And you parents out there, you're not going to like to hear this, but you need to hear this. You can't. You can't raise spiritually awakened children. You meaning parents. You can't. You can't. It's very important you internalize that you cannot raise, you as a parent, cannot raise spiritually awakened children. Because it's not your job to do so. That is a place of the guru, the Kula guru. That's why I said in the beginning, it is essential that families have Kula gurus. The reason why I'm a parent, the reason why we cannot raise spiritually awakened children is because we are hardwired, biologically hardwired to do the opposite. We are hardwired, parents are hardwired to irrationally, instinctively love and protect our children no matter what. That's not the path of Dharma. Let me give you a story so this becomes more clear, because I know a lot of parents, in fact, every single parent with whom I've had this conversation, there is initial rejection of this idea. And we have to work through it until understanding comes. In the Ramayana, there's a story of the Ramayana from the Vedic Puranas. I suggest you read up on this particular story. It is a story of the father of Ram, Dasharatha, refusing, essentially, to send his son to Gurukul. So the story goes where Vishvamitra Muni, a powerful sage, is performing some sacrifices, some yajnas at his ashram in the forest. And two demons are constantly destroying, they're interrupting the sacrifice, they're throwing feces at the fire yajna, they're causing all kinds of mayhem, even killing some of the rishis who have come there to perform this sacrifice. So Vishvamitra Muni is fed up with this. He goes to Ayodhya, the capital city of Dasharatha. And Dasharatha is there with his family, and he's the king. So Vishvamitra Muni goes there and he says, my dear King Dasharatha, you're the king. It is the Kshatriya Dharma. It is the duty of the king to protect everyone in the kingdoms, but also the Brahmanas. Vishvamitra was a Brahmana. So Dasharatha says, of course, what can I do? Vishvamitra Muni says, these two demons are extraordinarily powerful. I need your two sons, Ram and Lakshman, to come and kill these demons. Now, Ram and Lakshman at this point, they are 15, 16-year-old boys. Dasharatha says, absolutely not. I mean, these are kids. How are they going to fight and kill these? I know Marichi and Subahu. These were the names of the two demons. They were Marichi and Subahu. So you can Google the story. Dasharatha says, I know those two demons. They are some of the most powerful demons around. And you're asking my teenage boys to kill these demons? No, I'll do it. I am I'm a Maharati. Maharati means the highest level of warrior ability. I'm a Maharati. I am essentially undefeated in battle. I can take care of Marichi Subahu. Why my children? And Vishvamitra Muni says, no, I need Ram and Lakshman to come with me and kill these two demons. It has to be them. Dasharatha's wives come. They also get in on the discussion. Kaikeyi, who's the second wife of Dasharatha, she says, I am a warrior princess. I have been trained in warfare. I can kill Marichi Subahu. Don't take our children to do this. Vishvamitra Muni is becoming more and more upset, having to deal with Dasharatha and Kaikeyi and so on. So he's getting nowhere with Dasharatha and Kaikeyi, Kausalya, and so on. So Vishvamitra Muni calls the Kul Guru of Dasharatha. Kul Guru is the family guru. The family guru of Dasharatha and of the king and the family is Vashishta Muni. So Vishvamitra Muni, he turns to Vashishta Muni. He calls in the Kul Guru. He says, call the Kul Guru. The Kul Guru comes, Vashishta Muni. And Vishvamitra Muni, he says to Vashishta Muni, the Kul Guru, he says, what are you doing here? You're supposed to be the Kul Guru of this Kshatriya family, the king's family. You're supposed to help this family walk the path of Dharma. That is your specific duty. That's your role as Kul Guru. This is a Kshatriya king. Kshatriya Dharma means to protect. Kshatriya, literally, in Sanskrit, means protect from harm. Ksha, harm. Traya, protect. Kshatriya literally means to protect from harm. So Vishvamitra Muni says, what kind of Kul Guru are you? You're supposed to be guiding this family. I'm a Brahmana. I need protection. People are dying at my ashram because of these two demons. I need Ram and Lakshman to come and kill these demons. It is their duty to do so. So Vashishta Muni has to turn to Dasharat and has to convince, as Kulguru, he convinces Dasharat. He says, my dear Dasharat, don't worry. Vishwamitra Muni is one of the most powerful rishis, and he needs Ram and Lakshman to be the vessel through which his power can be used to kill the demons, because Vishwamitra Muni cannot do this himself. He wants to bestow his power into the vessel of Ram and Lakshman. Now, they are Vishnu avatars. Vishwamitra Muni knows this. Vashishta knows this. So Vashishta Muni tells Dasharatha, Vishwamitra Muni is going to give his power to Ram and Lakshman so that they can kill Marichi Subahu. The whole reasoning, of course, is Ram, as Vishnu avatar, has descended to this world to show how to be the proper leader and walk the path of Dharma at all costs. So this is part of that Leela, part of that unfolding of this Leela of Ramayana. The point that's being made here that we should understand is that the parent is incapable of forcing, leading their child on the path of Dharma. Dasharatha would rather die himself than send his children to war. That is the way it should be. It's supposed to be that way. Kaikeyi, the queen, would rather go and die than have her children go and be put at risk. That's the way it's supposed to be. But that's not Kshatriya Dharma. Ram and Lakshman are Kshatriyas. To walk the path of Dharma, Vashishta Muni, the Kul Guru, had to convince, had to explain to Dasharatha the importance of Ram and Lakshman engaging in this event, in this activity, in going to battle with Marichi and Subahu. It takes a Kul Guru to do this. There is a wonderful Hindi saying, many of you will know this, any of you who are Hindi speaking. Guru Putra Murk. This is that principle, Guru Putra Murk. The spiritual master's disciple, Guru Putra, the spiritual master's child, Guru Putra, Murk, is a moron, is a fool. Because the guru cannot, when they become a parent, when he or she becomes a parent, they cannot guide their child on the path of Dharma. They cannot do it as a parent. Because the biological, instinctive, and natural impulse of a parent is to protect and love the child irrationally. And this is the way it's supposed to be. The parent is the only person on the face of the planet who will love and protect a child instinctively and irrationally, no matter what. The parent is the only individual on the planet who will do that. No one else. So the role of the parent is absolutely essential and unique. So when parents try to become guru, it doesn't work. Children rebel, and then they resent the parent. The role of the parent is to unconditionally, irrationally love and protect the child no matter what. We know this. This is not hard to understand. Unfortunately, becoming spiritually awakened, that job is ill-suited to a parent. It has to be a Kul Guru who knows the path of Dharma and can educate the parent, can train the parent, can help the parent to understand that don't worry, the child will be fine, but the path of Dharma must be walked at all costs. Within reason, of course. No one's asking to take children to the battlefield. That was Ram is Vishnu. But in terms of roles, that is how it works. Another story to illustrate this. Dronacharya was the guru of the Kauravas and the Pandavas, the martial guru. And he trained the Pandavas and the Kauravas very, very well. Now, of course, the Kauravas being unqualified disciples, they may have learned how to engage in warfare to a level of competence, but they did not understand the importance and the teachings of Dronacharya as their guru in toto, meaning they did not understand that the guru-disciple relationship is also one of elevating the disciple to walk, or bringing the disciple to the place where they're walking the path of Dharma. The Kauravas couldn't do this. Dronacharya himself was dealing with, this is the story in the Mahabharata. You can look this up as well. Dronacharya himself was having personal challenges in his own life and was compromised because of it. But you see, Dronacharya's son, the teacher's son, he was a guru. His son, Ashvatthama, was one of the most, unfortunately, heinous characters of the Mahabharata, in the story of the Mahabharata. One part of the story, the Pandava Draupadi was being sexually assaulted. She was being disrobed, forced to appear naked in front of the assembly of people. During this episode, Ashvatthama, the son of the guru, was laughing the hardest. The son of the guru was laughing the hardest while watching Draupadi in an attempt to sexually assault Draupadi. Guru Putra Murk. When the guru becomes a parent, as a parent, we cannot guide our children along the path of Dharma. Parents are not supposed to do that. Parents are supposed to and are required to, and not required, they instinctively do this. Irrationally, instinctively, unconditionally, love and protect our children no matter what. They're the only human being on the face of the planet who can do this, who will do this. And we all know parents do this. Even in courts of law, parents are given leniency when they act in this regard. Even in courts of law, it's a principle of human nature. So in terms of raising spiritually awakened children as a parent, you can't. But you can do two things. One, understand the importance of having a Kul Guru, both for you and your family as a parent, as parents, you and your spouse, and for the child. I'll go into more detail about Kul Guru later. A Kul Guru is not someone, sometimes the Kul Guru is seen as nothing more than priest who comes to do car puja. It's not a cool guru. The cool guru is relegated to being basically someone who, we're not going to get into that. The cool guru has to have prominent of place as Vashishta Muni had to Dasharatha. It has to be someone we as parents look up to spiritually and can imbibe and take their instructions on how to walk the path of Dharma, how to live a spiritually awakened life. So it's the first thing we can do as parents. Make sure we have a living, to say, oh, I read the books of various saints. Not nearly enough. Have a living cool guru with whom you have regular contact. It should be a cool guru whom you really, truly respect and appreciate. Otherwise, it's a waste of time. You're not going to get anywhere. A cool guru is not someone you have on retainer, like a babysitter or the mechanic. The cool guru is not your mechanic to come and fix something when something's broken in your family relationships. Have a cool guru, number one. Number two, and this is most important, in the beginning, in the early years of your child's life, you'll be able to guide the child. The child doesn't know any better. Do this, do that, do this, do that. But once they become preteen and teen, it's done. Your direct influence in terms of guiding a child is done. They're developing their own personality. They're actually pulling away and developing their own identity. 2 years before, you were their hero. Now they have other heroes and you are the uncool individual in their life. It's done. At that point, there's nothing more you can do, except in terms of teaching and actively influencing. What you must do, and you should have been doing this all along, both in your own life and certainly leading up to the preteen years of your child's life, is that you now must become an acharya. Mom and dad you should already have been an acharya when you decided to have and raise spiritually awakened children. But it is essential at this point, you must be an acharya. An acharya means to teach by example. Everything you want your child to learn and to do and to be, you must be it. 110%, you must be it. Leave them alone. Don't try to instruct, tell, do. You have a cool guru. The cool guru will do that. You don't instruct. All you do is be an acharya, number one. Number two, love. Love them. Be the parent. Love them instinctively, fully, irrationally, no matter what. What will happen is the child will connect being loved with your spirituality, rather than connecting your spirituality to being criticized, to being judged, to being harassed and chastised. Be an acharya. Let them see what a spiritually awakened person is, and then love them to their bones. Irrationally, fully, completely. Because once they're teenagers, trust me, I'm a Gurukul teacher. You think you know your child? Let me tell you, as a Gurukul teacher, when students would come to when I was living in India and working as a Gurukul teacher, students would come, parents would bring their children. I would know and learn more about their child once they come into Gurukul in 2 weeks than the parent ever knew about their child. So when they bring the child to Gurukul and the child will be in my ashram for 2 or 3 weeks, they'll come and say, Ma Vishnu, how's it going? I will say, oh, your child is like this, is like this, is like that. And they will say, who are you describing? Is that my child? Yes, that's your child. As a parent, you were unable to see. You're not supposed to see that. You were supposed to irrationally love, no matter what. When they go to the Kulguru or when they go to the Gurukula, it's a completely different relationship. Don't try, especially when they come to the preteen, teen levels, you cannot. It is not your job to try to actively force, push, prod on the spiritual path. I'm not talking about in their academic classes or something like that. I'm talking about on the spiritual path. We're talking about having and raising spiritually awakened children. On the spiritual path, you cannot do that. You have to be an acharya. Be what you want them to become spiritually. You have to be spiritually awakened and live a spiritually awakened life and then love them to death. It may look like they're rejecting, it may look like they're going their own way, they may look like they're rebelling. Have patience. Within themselves, they're connecting your unconditional love with your spiritually awakened nature. What they will do, what they will get away from that is they will connect. Spiritually awakened beings are the most loving, joyful persons to have in their life. And that's what they will become. Hari Hari.